Hello, everyone. There's so much to talk about as far as atheists versus religious versus New Age versus the truth. Um, there's so many heated debates, um, conspiracies, and whatnot. I'd just like to share that years ago, I met a very influential individual who, for lack of a better word, was part of the hegemony. Um, and he told me after we were friends for a number of years, he told me certain things about the fact, well, for one, that he was part of the hegemony. And then we discussed spirituality, and he was quite intrigued that that I was interested in spirituality. It was funny. The first thing I asked him, when I found out he was a member of one of the royal families, European royal families, I asked him if I could ask him a question, and he said, "You're not going to ask me if I'm a reptile, are you?" I thought that was very funny. But no, I asked him about spirituality. I felt like that being part of the royal family, that they were taught things that the normal people aren't taught, the rest of us, if you will. And he said, yeah. He said, first he was intrigued. He said he was almost kind of nervous that I asked because, you know, we are, minors, we'll say. We're not, according to him, we're not human. And that makes more and more sense. It's not necessarily well, it is kind of an insult, but it's more than that. So, anyways, he told me a lot of things over the years that we were friends, and so just like to share a little bit of that in this video. I will share more in the future. Some things, unfortunately, I'm not comfortable with sharing. Um, but anyways, I'd just like to say I've heard of the maps and so forth in Washington D.C. and the roads making symbols and so forth. So I did like a little experiment. Um, you'll see that there's like a Masonic tombstone, but I also saw it on various other Masonic crematoria and so forth, and having these symbols. And if you're familiar with the occult, you'll notice the inverted pentagram. But so I printed out pictures of the map of Washington, D.C., and showed people and asked them if they could see uh, any symbols or shapes therein. And none of the people that I showed this to could see anything, which it was kind of shocking to me in a way, but not in another, because one of the things my friend told me was that people here are programmed not to see or think certain things. And he would say that people who weren't enjoying it here, or were thinking of other things, were in essence broken in a way and not adhering to the programming, which is good in some ways and bad in others. Um, but anyways, just like to show you on this map, you have Logan Circle to to the White House, and Logan is a Masonic family. Then you have DuPont all the way to the White House, and then going down from DuPont to the Busboys and Poets Square, and then from there you go across to Washington Hospital, and then you're going to go down from Logan again, almost down to Washington Hospital, but there's kind of a gap there. Now that gap, of course, is the inverted pentagram. I won't go into why, but it needs to not be a perfect star, and it needs to be broken. And people say, or people think, I've heard various theories about um, why that they're doing it on purpose to put it in our face, but actually they did it because they had to in order to seal power, basically hundreds of years ago. So it's kind of funny, I even showed people, once I showed the people this, certain friends and family, they saw it. Some people would deny that it's even there, even after showing it. They say that I'm just, that you're just seeing what you want to see, which is kind of ridiculous given how plain, how obvious the star is. But the people who said that were largely on antidepressants, drugs, alcohol, and, even though they were quite successful, you know, those type of things. Like I said, the programming, the denial, almost like the Matrix, kind of dependent upon the system. And it is scary to think that this is actually possible. People don't want to believe that. They just want to go on with their happy little lives until they, are no longer here. in a way. But another thing my friend told me is you never leave this place. But we'll get into that later. So now you see this star, and basically, it's still funny the people that I showed this to, and you see that basically, wow, hundreds of years there's been like basically a dark force in control of this country. But that doesn't stop people from arguing about Democrat versus Republican, Hillary versus Trump, Obama, Bush, you name it. People just, they're so dense. But like I said again, there's a reason for that. They've been programmed that way. And it goes way beyond what you would even imagine. I mean, a lot of physicists now, there's many theories about the world, and you've heard Elon Musk, but I mean, he wasn't the first to think about it, trust me. He's just repeating what he's heard other physicists say. Not other physicists, but physicists, because he's not a physicist, but saying about the simulation world and this and that. But let's, okay, their reasoning for the simulation is, in my opinion, ridiculous. Another, like I said, my friend, he basically mentioned that there was other reasons for having a simulation, as not exactly a simulation, more like a game to keep us entertained, but also a game that has a purpose for the dark forces, if you will. And like I said, for those of you who think that this is impossible, then I guess you are in denial. I mean, with these just showing you the inverted pentagram above Washington D.C. But there's other reasons. He also told me, you ever want? He said they like to keep people in two camps basically. They like the atheist camp, and then they like the what do you call them? Not just the religious, not fanatical religious, but kind of fundamental. That's what I'm talking about. People who take the Bible and other religious works literally instead of seeing kind of the meaning in those pages. But those pages have been largely altered. I hope you are all quite aware of that by now, or at least a few of you have thoughts and control of some influence or control of your minds and bodies, because unfortunately most people are completely controlled by their bodies and their minds. Okay? For instance, a yogi, a maharishi would have almost complete control of their mind and body. And like I said, most people have absolutely no control. They eat. I mean, I'm sure they can move their arms and legs, yes, but they eat when their body is hungry and when their body tells them they should eat. And that's why there's such obesity in the world. They get angry. So many things when their minds want it. So when you realize certain things, and you will realize that you are not your mind and body. You are actually somewhat in control of them, but usually they are in control of you. And that's because your mind and body are basically a prison for you. I know it's hard to realize in just this short video, but in the coming videos perhaps I can expand upon it. Okay? But for now, just think about if those roads were put in there hundreds of years ago, does it really matter who the president is now? I mean, read some Machiavelli and realize that even 500 years ago, people realized that democracy is an illusion, republics are an illusion created by the hegemony, the monarchs, the whatever wealthy families of the world to keep people kind of, lost in confusion, lost in the illusion of having autonomy. I know it's depressing, but like I said, there are things we can do as individuals to raise ourselves above those of us who are left. Because another thing you have to realize, if you're in a game type situation, right, there are players who are actually here, but then a lot of spiritualists often wonder, why is the world so evil? Why can people be so callous? If there is a God, why is the world so horrible? How can people not have compassion? But what they have to realize is, first of all, that although there is a God, that he is no longer in control of this place. Second, a lot of the bodies that you see walking around are Second, non-player characters. Yeah, that's the word in a game. Non-player characters, right? Completely part of the system. I mean, I know it's difficult to imagine, but just think, right? Just think think of how far we've come in 100 years with computers. Now think about if we were to survive another 1,000 years or another million years, what type of virtual reality could we or some other entity, not that they're aliens, okay, let's not get into that, but some other entity, what could they come up with? Could they simulate this world? First of all, how do you know that this was even what the real world looks like? Because if you were, just like the Matrix, if you were born into it, you would never know, right? So just think about that while I tell you my next video, okay? Have fun, and bye for now.